Hello friends, welcome back to the 7th episode of this channel. I am Rajan here this side and today we are going to talk about ISO. We will try to understand what is ISO, how to use ISO, what is the correlation between ISO and shutter speed. We will also understand what is sensitivity, what is high ISO, low ISO and what is the lighting condition for using ISO. So welcome back to the channel and without any further delay, let's get started. So first we see what is the definition of ISO. What is ISO? In photography, ISO is the measurement of sensitivity of the image sensor. In this image, we will try to understand the sensitivity of this image sensor and how can we increase the ISO in different lighting conditions. So now you can see that generally in the day lighting condition the ISO is approx 100 to 200 and during shade or indoors it is 200 to 400. When you are using any flash then it is 4 to 800 we should use it, and in darker indoors it should be 800 to 1600. In indoor at night during night condition the ISO can be used to 1600 to 3200, and in a very low lighting condition it may go up to 3200 plus. So to understand ISO we also need to understand the correlation between ISO and shutter speed. So generally you have come across a couple of situations when you are shooting indoor. So at that time when your ISO is 100 and your shutter speed is coming to 1/60th or 1/80th of the second, so you must have seen there is a blurry image. So rather than getting a blurry image, it is better to increase ISO. Accordingly your shutter speed will increase and you can capture sharp images. So try to understand with these some of the examples. So in the first in this image you can see the one of the image is taken at 1/80th of the second and the other was taken at 1/200 of the second. In the first image you will see some blurriness is there in the image. To avoid these blurry photos, try to increase ISO, and which will further increase the shutter speed as well. Same with the second image. This image was taken in a very low lighting condition and here again the ISO was increased and accordingly simultaneously the shutter speed also got increased and the sharp image was captured. In this third image you can see the ISO has been increased from 100 to 800. This was captured during night time and there was a very low lighting condition in this area. When we increase the ISO, we have seen there is a good amount of light which has been captured on the sensor of the camera and a sharp image is getting captured. We must have also seen that when we increase ISO, there is a noise in the image. In this example you can see the image has been taken in two different ISOs. One is at ISO 100 and the second is at 3200. So you must have seen there is a noisy image in the second image. This illustrates that the difference between the low and the high ISO setting. At 3200 ISO there is a higher level of noise and this can actually degrade the details of the image. Hence in most of the lighting condition generally the ISO is kept low for getting a good and a smooth image where the noise is less. When we talk about the correlation between ISO and shutter speed, try to understand this concept also. When you keep the ISO bit high, so the sensor is more sensitive and you require less light on the sensor and hence you can achieve a bit faster shutter speed and you can achieve a good sharp image during your low lighting conditions as well. On the other hand, when you keep a lower ISO, so camera is less sensitive and more light is required on the image sensor to capture that particular image and hence your shutter speed will be low. So there will be a bit blurriness in the image. So generally there is a recommendation that when you keep your ISO low, try to use a tripod. On the other hand, your subject should be also still. Your subject should not be moving. On the other hand, when your ISO is high, you can capture the image while holding the camera on your hand. In different lighting condition, you need to understand, you need to keep your ISO high or you need to keep your ISO low, and accordingly your shutter speed also can be manipulated with the ISO. So with this concept of ISO and shutter speed, I would like to throw some light again on the exposure triangle once again. So now in this image you can see, you can understand from this exposure triangle, when you require a high depth of field, then your f value should be low and more light will be falling on the sensor when we are talking about aperture. And when you require a sharp image, then your f value should be high and your depth of field will be reduced. On the other hand, when we are talking about shutter speed, when you increase your shutter speed, so your motion is getting freezed and less light is falling on the sensor. When we talk about ISO, when you increase the ISO from ISO 100 to maybe to 25,600, which is shown in this exposure triangle image, so there is a the image is the sensor is getting more sensitive, and you will also find there is a grain in the image. So here I would like to also mention that understand your lighting condition, in which lighting condition you are capturing an image. When for example, when I go outside, when there is a good lighting condition during my golden hours, I generally tend to keep my ISO somewhere around ISO 100 or 200. But on the other hand, when I'm doing indoor shoot, so the ISO can be increased to 800 or 1000 to get a good sharp image rather than getting a blurry image. So it is a myth that we should not increase our ISO. So we can easily increase our ISO because nowadays DSLR cameras, technologically they are very advanced and you can shoot it in a higher ISO as well, and you will not get grains in the image. Generally nowadays in full frame camera there is a big sensor size, so more light is falling on the sensor and you will get a better image when you increase your ISO also. So if you are talking about Canon cameras, maybe 5D Mark IV, which is one of the latest. If you are talking about Sony, so Sony Alpha series, Nikon Z7 series, Z series, all these mirrorless cameras, they are coming up with a very good technology. So hence if you increase your ISO during your night time or during your indoor shoot where your lighting condition is very less, then you can increase, probably you can increase your ISO as well. And when you are using any flashlight or any studio kind of a light where you can control your lighting condition and where you understand how much light is falling on the subject, then accordingly you can keep your ISO approx 150 or 200, which will give you a sharp image. So my recommendation is that rather than capturing a blurry image, it is better to increase your ISO and capture a sharp image. So friends, I have kept it very simple to understand what is ISO and how can we manipulate the ISO values, what is the correlation between your shutter speed and ISO, and in which lighting condition you should use ISO. So don't be afraid of using ISO. Hope the concept of ISO is very much clear in this tutorial. So friends, in the next tutorial I'll be talking about lighting, and see you in the next episode. Have a great day. Thank you.